in the allegory of the cave, there were prisoners chained inside where their only reality is the shadows casted by the objects behind them. One day, one of the prisoners escaped and saw an entirely different reality. He saw the sun, the moon, and everything the world has to offer. So when he came back to save his fellow prisoners, he told them what he saw. Instead of feeling relieved, how do you think the fellow prisoners reacted? So the theory here is that they would kill him, not out of cruelty, but fear. Fear of the unfamiliar truth. Why? Because when your worldview has shaped your entire identity, like your habits, your personality, your sense of right or wrong, it stops as merely as something you have. It becomes what you are. It becomes your core identity. So for someone to question you, your beliefs, obviously you're going to be defensive. And this is not you being irrational. This is just a biological and psychological survival response. Because the brain sees threats to our core beliefs similar as physical threats. We cannot distinguish the difference between I am wrong, I'm being told that I am wrong, to I am being unmade. And the majority of us are those prisoners because growing up, we were conditioned to believe and behave a certain way without questioning the basis of those beliefs, which then significantly shape our perception of the world and how those perceptions influence the way we live now. So when we were young, we did not have the conscious ability to question the credibility of those informations passed to us. But even then, when we reach adulthood, questioning it becomes more difficult. So I had a conversation with a friend where I talk about there's just people who stands out and there's just people who doesn't. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is not a comparison between the two. What I'm trying to say here is that the people who stands out, and I'm not talking about them being physically captivating or whatever, but it's just that they seem to operate in a different wavelength than most people. It's like they speak the same language as ours, but they carry a different meaning that not a lot of people would be able to understand. And there's a research done by Dr. Elaine Aron that people who operate differently are assumed to be deep thinkers, but they're not just different, they're also neurologically and physiologically different as well. So Dr. Elaine called them highly sensitive people or HSP. So they have what we call differential susceptibility, which means they are more genetically predisposed to take in more informations and process it deeply. So when you process the informations deeply for a long period of time, you become an active observer of the way you think. So for HSP or highly sensitive people, deep processing comes more intuitively because they have a sensitive nervous system, which also comes with a very strong intuition. So what makes HSP or highly sensitive people different from non-HSP is that they develop better metacognition. So they're more naturally open to question things around them because they're more aware of the subtleties of their surroundings. But if you personally ask me, I don't think you have to be a natural deep thinker or you need to be a highly sensitive person to think deeply or to process informations deeply or to have a better metacognition. I just want you to remember that our brain's neuroplasticity allows us or gives us the ability to become someone better each time. So it starts with us and our decision to actually, or if we're willing to question our inner truth. So metacognition is our ability to reflect how we think from a third person perspective. So think of it like a movie, like that movie Deadpool. You know, for example, there's a lot of scenes where Wade Wilson make jokes about being just a character in a movie. And I think Ryan Reynolds loved to make jokes about him or about being aware that he's just a character to every work that he does.
And I share that home with someone you've met, the old blind lady from the laundromat, Al.
God, I miss cocaine.
Her. Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
And here's the thing. We do this all the time. Like all the time. Like for example, maybe you said something wrong and it's not as big of a deal as you think it is, but to you it is, so you can't stop thinking about it. So you might think then like, oh, I could have done, or I could have said it better, or why did I say this? What's everyone gonna think about me? So that is rumination. We call it rumination, but that is a common example of metacognition. So, what are the conditions for us to develop metacognition? First, you need to give yourself time and space. When I really think about it, not everyone has the privilege to be able to just sit down and think about their thoughts and their emotions, because a lot of people, most people, are more focused on survival, right? And if you have the privilege, then I highly advise you to actually just sit down and think about your purpose and your values and principles in life. Why? Because it makes you a better person. Society doesn't really teach you how to manage your emotions. I mean, if you think about it, through generations and generations, we are or we were conditioned to suppress our emotions, which is against our autonomy of being human. School does not teach you how to think, but what to think. They don't teach you how to manage your emotions healthily, but they teach you how to express and behave in ways that are deemed presentable in society. And not only that, we live in a very capitalistic society where us human beings are seen as economic unit. So what this implies is that our value is based on how much we can provide and how much we can contribute, right? But the truth is, our inherent value as a human being is just to be. Our inherent worth is absolute, and no amount of external sources can tell us or can ever dictate that. We need to be comfortable about the fact that we feel negative emotions in the first place. Why? It's because we're simply human beings, right? Our negative emotion serves as a signal to our internal needs. And if you actually just sit through it, sit through the pain, through the discomfort, you will eventually arrive to the truth. And truth can only be arrived at when we choose to analyze it, explore, and question it. So our emotions may communicate what it truly needs, but it does not mean that we need to always have to do something about it. A lot of times we just need a safe space to let our emotions out. And I think that's totally fine. Okay, so being alone gets a bad rap because it often implies two things. You're either lonely or undesirable, or both. But those two words are not interchangeable. When we say you are alone, you're being by yourself. But when you say you're lonely, that means you're missing on particular connections. And people get so uncomfortable being seen alone or spending their time in solitude by other people. And you would think it's the absence of people that would hinder them from ever feeling comfortable spending in solitude. Maybe that could be one of those reasons. However, I do think it's the presence of silence that deters other people from feeling comfortable with spending by themselves. And the reason for this is because we're surrounded by tons of people every single day that we're constantly stimulated by conversations, by energies, that spending alone can become a foreign language to many people. Silence lend themselves well to let ourselves take the time to form our thoughts properly. When we are alone, there is no audience to perform. It's just us, our thoughts, and our emotions, and whatever problem that we've been running away from. This is why most people avoid it. Not because people are weak, but because it demands us to answer the question, who are we when nobody's watching? The reason why it's difficult to ever question anything really is because we have created a system collectively where we reward appearance over substance, or performance over authenticity, and harmony over truth. So, as you can tell, society rewards quick decisions and surface level interactions. So, any form of complex analysis or nuanced thinking does not really translate well in modern society because instant gratification has become the complete norm. That's why in the allegory of the cave, it's much easier to kill the escaped prisoner rather than to face the truth, because facing the truth demands us to question our reality. And the reality is not always good. So this threatens our illusion, or this threatens the illusion that we were never in control. but this also threatens those in power who benefit from people staying in that cave. So the tragedy in the cave is not just ignorance, but the structure of the cave makes anyone who wants to seek for the truth becomes either the enemy or the outlier. And this makes it difficult for those who had to bear the truth alone. When we begin to question, we ask ourselves to look at the things that we would rather ignore, to feel the emotions that we would rather numb, and to question the things that we would rather take for granted. And we also need to ask ourselves to stop being strangers to the lives that we've been living, to become native to the lives that we were meant to live. Of course, the process to get there is not comfortable. It's not instant, and certainly it's not something society will ever reward you at first. But this is the only path that teaches you to be more intentional, to be more sincere and authentic to the kind of path that you want your life to take in. The philosopher Soren had a concept called the leap of faith, where he said, if you're looking for reasons to justify faith, you'll never arrive there. At some point, you have to take a leap. And my takeaway is actually similar to that. Because if you're waiting for permission from others to live your life, or you let others dictate how you want to live your life, then you will never learn how to own the life that you're meant to live in. So eventually, you have to take a leap. You have to make decisions, even it means you have to take that risk. You need to learn how to live your truth despite the consequences. The consequences that you have to bear is that you will possibly be misunderstood, rejected, and isolated from the world. But you need to also trust that when you are in alignment with your values, you trust that you will find the people and the environment that will hold your entire authentic self. And when your love for yourself is rooted in self-acceptance, the world will never or cannot touch your core. Because when you become so rooted to your own values and to your own truth, you can weather any form of misunderstanding. And when we choose to live our own truth, we also grant others to do the same.